So, Kamera läuft.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Tasting Something Good. So I wanted to welcome you today. I said so. Damn it. Hello, I want to welcome you to another edition of Tasting Something Good. Today we have a very special guest. It's Guenther Primig, and he is the author of a list of stories called The Dark Book of Gwena Luna. So I'm very happy to introduce our guest, Guenther.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Nice to be here.
So just tell me a little bit about what was the inspiration, what started the book?
Well, the book is, I've always been writing those sorts of stories. Supernatural fiction has always been kind of what I do. But what I've been writing over the years was mostly stuff for other people, films, theater, and that sort of thing. They were more collaborative. So the original idea for this book was to do one thing just for me, and that's kind of what the original idea was. So I gathered some of the stories I'd written for myself over the years and started reworking them and putting them into an overall coherent whole. And so basically now we have these 6 tales tied together with the story of Gwena Luna, this girl who's also a witch. Mm-hmm. And we ended up with a very sort of an anthology format, very typical like ghost story format, 6 different tales interrupted by a frame story that ties them together. So basically the idea was to do something myself, mm-hmm. and do something with the people here that I know that I would like to work with. And
well, that's interesting because I think that from the illustration mm-hmm. is a local artist that we're also working with at Spend It Forward. That's Rory, and then we have Nadir, and you've known him for a long time.
Nadir and I were friends before we ever did this, so I've mm-hmm. known Nadir for several years. So when I had the idea for the book, he was the first person I called because I know a lot of the work he does with online marketing, advertising, and of course a lot of the designers and people he works with. And he's also a person I knew I could work with very, very happily. Mm-hmm. And so he came on board, took over basically the producing of the book as a product, as a physical product as well.
And also you have the fortunate that his partner is also an illustrator. So
we keep it in the family.
Exactly, I was going to say it's like it's a family affair.
Yes, and interestingly, when I met with Rory about the illustrations for this book, it took him back to a very early thing. He had a period of very bad dreams and very night visions and that sort of thing. And he showed me some of the sketches he had done when he was a teenager. Many, quite a few years ago, and they were eerily perfect for Gwena. They were very spooky, very creepy, moody.
I mean, I'm familiar with his work, mm-hmm. and so like he does a lot of like very bright, colorful pieces.
Oh yeah, it's impossible to be in a bad mood when you look at his work.
Well, it's also to be around him.
Yeah, but so it took him in a different direction. This is like a blend of his current style and the stuff he maybe did 10 years ago, but I really like what he's done because the illustrations for the book capture a certain like almost folk arty woodcutty mm-hmm. look that goes very well with the stuff I write because it's very steeped in folklore and mythical stories that were around because I grew up in a very Catholic kind of area where ghosts are still not that very far away from people's consciousness.
And so you read earlier it was the Coachman.
The Coachman, yeah.
And tell us a little bit about this, the origin story for this.
The Coachman is an interesting story because it's the one story in the book that's actually set in my hometown. Mm-hmm. So the localities and the town, the place, the moor, the lake, are places where I grew up. And it's interestingly one of the few, probably the only one that started with, I had a dream about certain, these bowls, these kind of indentations in the forest near this town that were actually caused by World War II bombs being dropped in the forest.
Oh wow.
But they looked like these little indentations in the woods, very mystical. And as a child, I was very fascinated by them. And this image from a dream was in connection with this Coachman character and him creating this indentation in the earth where he kills his victims and takes these sorts of ritualistic baths in the mud. So that story is very much, I think that's also why it's the first story in the book. It's really kind of where everything kind of started. Yeah.
The other thing is I find really interesting, I said I was going to ask you this, so you apparently are quite popular in India.
Apparently, to my surprise. Yeah, no, the book is doing very well in India. Who knew? And,
right.
At first I couldn't. I thought about it. I think it makes sense because it's an English-speaking culture, largely in Mumbai and thereabouts, and a culture where the spiritual is very present. And I think it's, in most other cultures, it's not as much of a leap to have supernatural elements and supernatural stories in your regular fiction, in your regular narratives. I think it's a Western thing to have kind of eliminated that from serious literature.
Well, I think if you go if you go to the Chinese medicine and mysticism, and also if you're going into the whole Eastern culture, it's still steeped in mysticism. Yeah. There's still a lot of mores in terms of class, and fortunate, and also, but it's quite beautiful. I mean, you have temples that probably were spaceships, according to them, and flying gods on.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they get a book about ghosts and goblins?
Clearly. And I think the acceptance is just much higher of that element. Also South America, or where it just you tell a normal story or an ordinary story, and when that element comes in, it's not perceived as jarring.
No.
It's because that's how the world is, and that kind of dovetails with how I see the world.
And it's interesting because going back to the Coachman is that you're originally from Austria, and so that kind of was the region where you were from, but you're writing in English. Is that?
Well, I immigrated to the United States when I was 18, and I was there for a very long time, for very formative years. So English is probably the language I'm still the most comfortable with, and all my literary references and what I know is more English American literature than it is German literature, where I have horrible gaps. So yes, and my access to the ghost stories also through the greats of the Golden Age, the M.R. Jameses, the Edgar Allan Poes, and that sort of writing.
Definitely, there's a lot of I don't want to say I got a lot of Edgar Allan Poe, and also the style of writing is something that I quite enjoy, which is writing how one would speak or tell the story. I like that a lot, because it just kind of goes to a cadence of someone reading the story to you, or reading a horror.
It's the nice thing about ghost stories. They're ultimate storytelling. They're basically firesides. Let's sit down, I'll tell you what happened.
Right.
And that's the beauty of them. And there was a period when all the big names, all the writers did it. It was just another genre. The ghost story was not what now is horror fiction or genre fiction. It was just a type of short story, and every big name up to like the World War II perhaps has written ghost stories.
What would you say were your influences, since you've been so influenced by English and American literature?
You mean specifically as far as supernatural fiction, or in general?
Or just in general. I mean, like for me, like if this evokes like the Hounds of Baskerville for me, then that
Conan Doyle, of course. Yeah. I mean, wonderful stuff. As far as a ghost story writer, I'm of the not particularly original opinion that the greatest of them all is M.R. James, who was a very interesting character. This is a highly regarded scholar who wrote the definitive work on the English cathedral, and who I still don't quite understand how he does it. But he writes apparitions. These tales are very... Usually some academic goes to a small town somewhere in England and starts digging into some crypt or some church. It's this very reduced little story, but very, very beautifully written. But when he comes to the apparitions, I don't know how he does it, but every time I go, oh, there's always an element that is just so right and so disturbing. And he also, and this is probably one thing I really learned from him, he never explains. He never falls into the trap of saying, this is what, and then, and he has to ring this bell 3 times, and then this, and he killed the mother. And there's so little explanation, just enough for you to know that something is very wrong, and these usually very malevolent apparitions are out there, and these encounters you have with them, sometimes by chance, are so horrifying.
Well, I think when I hate or strongly dislike when authors explain away or they give the reasons for the anger or the underpinnings of something, because that's sometimes I feel is the point of literature, is that your imagination can fill in the blanks.
Yeah, particularly with shadows like this. I mean, it's the same as a magician. Once you say, oh, yeah, this here, there's this thing, it's like, oh, okay, that's all you're doing. It's much better if you just suggest, and if you just see enough to see elements of it, but you will never understand.
Right.
That's the point of the supernatural.
Yeah.
You will not understand it. You cannot grasp it. You're dealing with the infinite. You're dealing with things, and who can explain why it's scary? I mean, this is also, I think, the distinction between this and horror.
I do want to get into your up-and-coming project, and let's try a little PYKE as well.
PYKE, yes.
So it's brewed water. So beer.
Yeah.
So it's brewed water. So it's actually done in a similar process to beer. And this is done with fruit. So it's actually a movement in the United States. This is called hard seltzer. So it's like seltzer water, like like Schweppes seltzer.
Yeah.
Except it's 5% alcohol.
Oh.
Hello. And so it's here. This is with lemon, mango, and grapefruit. And I know in the States, the movement has grown from sales of 1.3 million to 600 million, and now they're at 1 billion because of the lockdown.
Okay.
And the benefits of this, or when I say benefits, why it's so, I think, catching on, is low calorie, no fat, no sugar. No bloating like you get, and also like in terms of like the mouth heaviness that you get from beer, or that feeling from the yeast.
Nothing scary.
And I would say people can drink a lot of it because it's actually water.
Okay.
So
and
I'm curious, and we were doing these.
Which one should I start with here? This is,
I would go with
like the name.
Your Liebling. I know, right?
Yeah, PYKE's a very good name.
And I think it's actually named after one of the founders. But now we have to look up PYKE's Peak in the United States.
Yes, that's right. Or PYKE is also a name in the Wild Bunch.
That's true.
Pass Wild Bunch.
Right? Yeah.
PYKE.
Yeah, that's true. It's the
PYKE
name.
Bishop.
Yeah. So now I would say which do you like?
I'm going to go with lemon for now.
Okay.
God, I haven't opened a can in a long time. That's retro.
I know, right?
It's nice.
And it's
nice, not sweet. It's
no. That's
kind of a dry kind of.
Exactly, and it's
tasty
no
goodness.
artificial. It's natural, and I mean the ingredients are pretty straightforward on the back. Yeah.
Nice. This is good.
Yeah, I think what I like about it is that I don't get that heavy feeling, when I'm drinking that.
Yeah, and where are they selling this now? Is this here now?
We literally just got it in. We literally 2 weeks ago. It just arrived 2 weeks.
You have a few cases.
Yeah, we have quite a few. This is the mango. This is the grapefruit, and we have lemon, but that has already been, even from the manufacturers, one of the top sellers. Would you like? We can try a grapefruit.
God, yes. We is this the grapefruit? No,
that's
the
the mango.
This is your favorite.
That's my favorite. Yes. I mean, everyone
just love
has
the sound.
I know, right?
I could just open these all day.
We could do a performance piece.
Oh, that is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm a bitter, sour kind of person. Yeah.
No, that's really good.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. The mango, if you want to try that one, it's like your book.
Well, I love it.
Yeah, and first you just get the aroma.
Mango surprise.
Exactly.
Ooh, yeah. It's doing some weird in the middle.
It's page 7. I'm telling you, it's page 7.
But I want to go to page 8 with it. It's
oh, nice.
No, it's well, this is the most complex of the flavors.
And why? I'm curious because we've gotten this similar feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Why do you think it's the most complex?
I can't really find a reason for it. It certainly takes you on a. It goes like high, low, high. It's like this, this little curve.
Yeah.
It's an experience. You just have to try it. The drink that's also a ride.
Exactly.
No, this is I think I'm going with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said it was like my book, so I have to now.
Yeah. Well, definitely, because what I found is that it has a really powerful aroma, but then it has this subtlety when you drink it, and then the flavor builds, and it's exactly like this. Yeah, it's like climbing the peak, as it were. Pike's Peak.
Grapefruit.
Yeah.
That's my choice of the day.